Hey everybody, I'm Stacy. I'm the owner and artist of New Creations by Stacy. Happy Monday. So as you guys are jumping on, just say hey where you're watching from. We should have Dixie Belle on with us as well, just to help answer any questions. So I'm going to give it a sec. I just want to make sure we're live. And actually, I don't even have my other device to double check it. I've actually started painting before and went like 20 minutes before I realized I wasn't live. So we're going to give it just a second here. And, well, actually, let me just go ahead and get started, and hopefully we'll see some people pop on in about 5 minutes if I don't see anybody. Oh, actually, hey, Philippa from Australia. All right, so I know I'm live now. Again, I'm Stacy. I'm an elite Dixie Belle retailer here at the Rustic Willow in Ardmore, Alabama. And I'm the owner and artist, again, of New Creations by Stacy. So tonight, you guys, we're going to be working on this chair. But before we get started, oh, yes, good morning. All right, so hey, Dixie Belle, they're on as well. So before we get started, let me just give you a little information about what we've done. And also in the description, I've got the product list of what we're going to be using tonight, as well as there's a link for the Chalk Mineral Paint Enthusiast group. And then also my affiliate link. So you can find your local retailer through there. And you can also order product through the affiliate link as well. So this chair, and actually, you know, I'm looking at it on camera, and the contrast here is not nearly as much as it is in real life. But so this chair is actually going to be donated. We're doing a raffle at the store here to help a Ukrainian family. My sweet friend in Germany has taken in a mom and her 2 daughters, and they arrived there with just 2 backpacks and another bag. So they need everything, personal hygiene products, everything. So on my page, I have some information about that. Oh yeah, I do have a link in the description to my page as well, if you like and follow me on Facebook. So this chair, though, is being donated, so I definitely have to have it done by tomorrow. So you guys will see pictures really quick of this. Hey, Wanda. And so I also have, on my page, I've already posted pictures of the piece we did last week as well, if you want to go back and take a look at that. And then I painted this chair live and stained it as well on normally Friday, on Saturday night. So you can see the first part of this chair on there as well. But really quick, what I did was, of course, I started off by cleaning it with White Lightning. Oh, thanks, Dixie Belle. I did start off with cleaning it with White Lightning. Gets all the grease, grime. It's a declosser, everything like that off. And I did go ahead and sand down the seat. I'm going to move this transfer in a minute. I've got all my scraps out. Hey, Thelma. Yes, me too, me too. I've got all my scraps out, but we did go ahead and stain it with the Voodoo Gel Stain as well. I intended to do a heavy distress on the chair, but I really liked kind of this rustic finish that I had on it, so I didn't distress this part at all. But I did go ahead and distress the Voodoo Gel Stain, so you'll see what that looks like. And tonight we are actually, I've got a bunch of scraps from the sunflower transfer, and of course that's why I'm doing it in sunflowers, because, you know, that's the support for the symbol for Ukraine right now. So I just thought that was perfect. I'm actually donating a couple other pieces as well. The one we did on the Bells and Whistles page. Here, I'll show you guys. One we did on the Bells and Whistles page. This is also the Dixie Belle Sunflower Transfer. It just says Faith Over Fear. By the way, you guys are like a mirror image, so you can't see the whole thing. And then I've got another little box. And I'm also donating a new Dixie Belle Sunflower Transfer also. And by the way, too, if you purchase a Dixie Belle Sunflower Transfer from me through April, all of the proceeds, all of the profits are going to be going to support this family also. So that's what we're doing here. And if you guys haven't seen the transfers, this is it. And this is a new one, so I'll show you what it looks like here because You guys, I've gotten 4 projects already out of this transfer. This is going to be my 5th project. Hey, Heather, this is going to be my 5th project that I'm getting out of this one transfer. So let me show you guys what it looks like. So all the transfers, they come with a little tips and tricks instruction guide here. Just lets you know how to apply it. And we're going to go over all that tonight too. And then it comes with 4 sheets. So these are the sheets here. Let me just show you guys all of these if you haven't seen it before. All right. And then you've got also on this sheet, we've got some larger images along with some other ones. We're going to be layering the transfer tonight, maybe going around some curves too. But that's it. So like I said, this is going to be my 5th, I think my 5th project with this transfer. Let me just go ahead and put this one away. It also comes with an applicator stick here. So that's it. And we will go ahead and get started now. All right, so the transfers, like I said, we're going to be layering these on. And I think I've got a bunch of different pieces that I have cut up here. And I think, let me go ahead and pull these all off so you guys can see the top of this too. I'm trying to decide, and I think I'm going to end up doing it because these sunflowers, they have lots of different colors on them. They're not all the same type of sunflower. So see like the difference between these? So I think I kind of want to keep the ones on the bottom, this kind of yellow here. And this is the distressed chair that we did the Voodoo Gel Stain on. And then like I said, I distressed this down, sanded this down. It looks a crazy mess, but we're going to do some staining tonight too. We're going to use the Voodoo Gel Stain as a glaze so you guys can see how that's going to age it out. So I think what I want to do is kind of layer this one. I'm going to bring you guys in and down so you can see. Let me drop you down so you have a nice view. Let's bring this up a little bit. There we go. All right, so I think, let's see. What I'm doing is I'm just kind of laying them over one another so I can kind of get the spacing of how I want to layer these in. And you can kind of see through this little sheet so I can see the outline of where that's going to come out. I think I'm going to end up going a little farther over. I think maybe I want one layered in back here too. So what I'm looking for too whenever I'm designing this and laying these out is the sunflower is kind of pointing you in this direction, so it's still keeping your eye on the piece. So I want sunflowers that are going to be going in this direction. I don't want them to point you off of the piece with your eye. The point is to keep your eye on this piece here. So let's see. Let me see if I put this one under here, kind of how much of that would show. The bad thing about this is really I should layer the larger ones in the front because normally you would have the smaller sunflowers in the background and then your larger flowers in the front. That's just kind of how it would go. But see, I wouldn't want to put this one over here because the direction is leading you off the piece. So I think I'm going to go ahead and lay this one out right here. We're going to put this on first and then we'll see where we want to come in for the other one. So what I'm doing right now is this is a very inaccurate way to measure, but what I'm doing is I'm scoring this with my finger so that when I flip it over, I can see where I want to cut. And I'm hoping this edge is not really the best, but I can pretty well see it. Doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just going to take my scissors and see where I scored that. I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but if I hold it just right, I can see where I've got it scored. I'm just going to go ahead and cut that. Let's see. Just let me get that. All right. Sometimes the backing, the white backing, can be a little distracting when you're trying to design and layer the transfers. So I tend to lay them out kind of several times just to make sure. And you want to be careful when you're doing that too, because it comes in 2 sheets. This clear one has the sticky part of the transfer on it. You don't want to touch this part. If you do, you'll rip off that portion of the transfer because they're very thin. All right, so I think that's going to work out. And we'll go right about here with this. So normally when I'm layering, I like to keep a little watercolor pencil so I can kind of mark where I'm going to lay this out, how far up I want it, but that I didn't get out. So let me just use my finger, my fail-safe on the measurements here. So go about right there. So I've got this down, I've got it stuck, and it's actually stuck pretty well. It's not coming back up. I want to shift it over a little bit. Actually, this stuck down really quick. Normally you can peel these up pretty easily unless you're putting it on glass. And actually some of it's sticking down. So I'm going to go ahead with this right here. I didn't quite get it on the edge. There's just a little sliver. But you're not going to notice it. I'm also going to distress this transfer so it kind of goes with the rest of the piece. So what I'm doing is I'm just kind of rubbing it down so it doesn't slip or slide. If you do have it on a piece where it's a little more sliding, you can tape it down, but I don't really ever do that. But that does come on the tips and tricks, I think. So what you want to do is I'm just going to rub it down with my little applicator tool here. And you normally want to go in one direction. I don't want to like start rubbing it down up here, then come down here and rub it towards the middle because you can get a little air bubble. So you want to kind of be a little more careful about that. So once you've got it nice and stuck down, you can start to pull it off. When you start to pull it off, you want to go ahead and rub right where you're pulling up. Actually, let me get... that's going to cover it up for you. Let me see if I can move a little bit. All right, so as you're pulling back, you're just going to rub down in the spot that you're pulling up. And this will make it go pretty quick for you. If you know what? I feel like you guys might need to see a little better. So I've got my transfer scraps on the floor, and I want to be careful and not roll over them because that can also damage them. So let me spin you guys a little bit and make sure I'm not stepping on anything. There we go. That way you can see a little more clearly. So you can see how it changes, like it gets much lighter where it's released. And you're just going to want to watch as you're pulling back, because if you do have any section that sticks to your white plastic and kind of tears away, all you have to do is lay it back down, rub that section a little more, and then just go ahead and pull it off. So, and you guys, I did not get out a burnishing pad. The finishing pads are my favorite to burnish with, but I just realized as I was doing this. So we're coming to the end here where it's just got this little petal to release. So what I want to do is make sure that's rubbed down really, really well, because as you're pulling back, like I said, the transfer itself is very thin. And if some of it wasn't stuck to the chair when I pull this plastic off, it could actually tear away. There's ways to fix that if it does, but you definitely want to be a little careful because a lot of times your fix is to paint it in or layer something over it. It's not just, setting it back down and lining it up. So you want to burnish your transfer. Once you've got it down, make sure that you don't have any air bubbles. This is one way to burnish it, but it's not really my preferred method. And actually, you guys, I've got a burnishing pad right behind the camera. I'm going to grab it. I'm just moving a little slow because of my knee. So give me just a sec here. Sorry, I should have been more prepared. So this is actually a finishing pad. And this is what excuse me. This is what I actually prefer to burnish with. And I'm rolling over one of my scraps back here. 2 of them. So this is what I actually like to burnish with. And you just want to make sure that all your edges are attached really well. Anytime that I'm layering, I do burnish in between my layers, because let's say I didn't and I had a section of this that wasn't really stuck down. My next layer is going on top of this transfer. So it's very possible that if I didn't have this stuck down really well and all the spots, that my next transfer could actually pull it up instead of sticking down. So we've got that nice and burnished on. And now let's go ahead and take a look and see what other flowers we want to put on here. I feel like I want to layer one more. So one of my pet peeves about transfers is I don't like them to look like they're just floating. Like if I stuck this up here, I feel like it's not growing from anywhere. I need to feel like that it's growing. It's not just floating around on the furniture. And that's just a personal thing I have. So what I want to do is I'm just making sure that my edge down here comes all the way to the end, all the way across the chair, first of all. And then, I think I may layer this one in right back here on this side, because that'll give me a nice diagonal, kind of linear a little bit. So yeah, actually I think that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to go ahead and put this one right here. And I want it about this high. So I'm going to do the same thing here. This one's a little bit different. I'm actually going to crease it. And I'm doing this because my edge is really, really rounded. So I'm not, unless I crease it, I can't get that nice mark to where I need to cut it. So I'm just going to go ahead. And this isn't going to be perfect, but I'm distressing these. And I'm going to do a little dry brush over it. So I'm not so worried about being super straight on the edge. So I think this one's going to go in right about here. So perfect. So all I'm going to do is go ahead and peel off that backing. And you guys, visually, I've got like this little break in the board right here. And I'm just looking, that was about 1 finger space away whenever I was laying it out a minute ago. So I'm not just randomly sticking it on here. So one thing about this is this chair seat is curved. I don't think you can see it. So I want to be really careful. I stuck this side down. If I stuck this side down and tried to go towards the middle, 100% I would get a bubble. With bubbles, you have to pop those and release the air to make it stick. So I want to be careful when I'm rubbing this down to get around this little curve here. I want to be careful to come all the way over to the left and keep all the way from the left over to the right here and just keep going. All right, so I've also got a little spot that's going to roll around the front a little bit, and that's fine. I'm going to go ahead. Anytime I have a corner, I usually try to do that corner first and make that section release so that it's easier to do the rest of it. So I've got this. Let me twist you again so you can see really well. then as I'm pulling back, I'm just rubbing in that spot. So it's a little harder for me to rub because I'm rubbing on a curve. So I'm just being a little more careful. Oh, you can't see me pulling that back. Let me spin you. So you can see it now. And it's going to come off and release really, really easily here. And I'm just watching while I'm pulling back to make sure everything is stuck to the chair top. And there we go. So when I'm first going to burnish too with my finishing pad, and by the way, this is actually a pad. It's about this long. I cut mine in half just because they're easier to use and hold in my hand. But Dixie Belle does carry these. They're like $2.75, so really inexpensive, and you can use them forever. So some of my little halo parts are still up a little bit. So when I originally go to burnish, I'm actually not putting a ton of pressure on here. I'm just trying to make sure it's all rubbed down. I don't want to put a lot of pressure on here and potentially rip the transfer. So then once I make sure that's down, then I go across it with a lot more pressure to really make sure that really once you press this down and you make sure that halo is burnished really well, you can't really see that halo. It's not nearly as dark and bright. So we've got that down. Now let's go ahead and see. I've got to turn it this way so I can see our other piece here. So now we're going to layer in on top of these this piece. And I think normally I would take this off and kind of look at it without this white paper, but this transfer stuck so well to this chair that I don't want to take the risk of I'm making sure that I'm at the edge everywhere. But I don't want to take the risk of potentially getting it stuck and then not being able to move it or cut it off. So I'm just going to go around this side. So we've got a curve there too. All right, so, oops. Like I said, this doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to crease it so that I can see and make that cut over here. So you can see, this one you can see really where it's creased. So then I'm just going to go ahead and cut this first part. So I know that's kind of where I want my edge to be. That's going to give me a nice overlap right there. Oops, let's bring it down. Just want to make sure I'm getting along the edge here. Because not only do I have curves going around here, I've also got a curve on the side in several places. So let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and make this curve. This is not going to be the best. Another way to do this, actually I don't have what I need out. Another way to do this is to take a Sharpie just along the bottom and kind of draw that around so that you can cut it off. But since I didn't have the foresight to do that, we are going to make sure that I keep wanting to tilt this up. There we go. So like I said, this is not going to be perfect, but I'm going to go ahead and crease this around. All I have to do is sand off the end, but I prefer to cut it as best I can. So let's see where we're at there. Perfect. All right, so this will not be as bad coming across here. Pretty much just going to cut that along the line just about. I just want to watch the time. We'll probably just do a little bit of the glazing here at the end. But I want to get this all put on if I can. This chair, like I said, has to be done by tomorrow. So, all right. So I'm not super, yeah, I'm going to end up having to distress some of this off. But we've got it cut down well enough that I can place it and it won't be too much. So let's see, I'm going to go ahead and place it. And well, that's what I was talking about. So I'm going to go ahead. This is already stuck down. I don't know if it's that spot on the chair, but it seems really sticky. So I can't move this, and I don't want any wrinkles or bubbles. And because I'm not that far off and I'm working on a curve, I am just going to distress off this little overlap where it comes over the front of the chair, and I don't want it to. But I'm going very flat with my hand because I want it to be very flat on the curve of this seat. There we go. There we go. Also, if I had my X-Acto knife, I could trim this down some. So I'm actually going to use my scissors. Now you want to be careful if you're doing what I'm about to do right now, because your transfer can stick to your scissors and rip a little bit. I just don't want all that overhang. So just so you can see, when I'm cutting this, I don't want this side of my scissor on the side I want to use, because you see where my transfer just came off and stuck to my scissor. But that's the side I don't want to use anyway. So it's not an issue. So that's why it's better to use an X-Acto knife, but this works if you place the blade on the bad side of your transfer that you don't want to use. All right, so let's go ahead and start getting this one laid down. I've lost my little stick. Oh, here we go. And I'm actually laying this part down first because it's not sticking very well and it's on the curve. So I'd rather have this part down so I don't end up with any bubbles. And that's why I'm kind of coming around this curve first, kind of like I did on that other little piece. And I've got to be kind of in front of it here while I'm doing this. There we go, that's good enough. So I'm going to go ahead and rub all of this down so I can start pulling back this section first. So right now, if I wanted to pull up from this corner, I'm just going to start over here because it's easier. I don't really have a good hold for this plastic to come up, so I could use a piece of painter's tape, just put it on here and pull up. But I'm just going to go from this section over here first to get the handle on it. And let me pull you guys back so my hand isn't in the way. Well, I think no matter what, it kind of is going to be in the way. Once I get this section, though, I can do it a little bit different here. Let's just come up here. So now also another thing. Transfers stick to different surfaces differently. Let me see if I can come down here and start. You can use the side of your stick too, but they stick to different surfaces differently. So paint, like the chalk mineral paint, super porous. Transfers stick pretty well to them. If you're doing this on glass, glass sticks like that. I mean, there's no pulling it back, period. But also going over another transfer when you're layering like this, like up here, you might have to rub just a little bit harder for it to stick because the transfers, they're kind of very smooth. And when you're putting another transfer over them, you've sometimes got to rub a little harder for the transfer to stick down. And if you are having problems with the transfer releasing, usually this trick right here, just rubbing it as you're pulling it back, works fine. But if not, you can. So if you don't use a heat gun regularly, I would say use a hair dryer to release the glue a little bit. But if you are comfortable with the heat gun, you use it. You can use the heat gun, keep it moving, don't get it too close because the transfer will bubble up if you do. But just heat it up a little bit and let that'll help that glue release, and it'll help it stick to your piece and release from this plastic here. I feel like I'm in the way. Like I said, I'm being extra careful here because I've got these curves. And I want to get this edge as well, because I'm going around that little curve there. Then I'll catch the rest of this up. Hopefully you can, yeah, there you go. I really wanted to I want to put a little one at the top too. I wanted to get that done, but I'm not sure if we'll have time if we do the glaze. I'm just going in front here as well again. And I'm layering over on this side, so I'm just bringing it up from the bottom. So I didn't have this little leaf, it didn't release. I just laid it back down and rubbed it a little bit harder and it came right off. So I'm layering over another transfer, so I'm rubbing a little harder, going a little slower right now. The tip of that one kind of got stuck a little bit. Now I've just got one little tip. There we go. And that's it. So now I'm going to go ahead and burnish it down again. Again, light pressure when you initially start to burnish so you don't pull anything back. Actually, I don't even think I'm going to worry about the curves on the front of this. This still looks pretty good how it's coming out. So I'm not going to too much worry about the distressing there. Just want to make sure everything is pressed down. Sometimes you can get like a little bitty stringy thing that comes up. You just put a little more pressure with your burnishing pad and that'll come right off. Got another one up here on that edge. That halo just went away. And you want to make sure you don't have any bubbles, especially when you're going around curves. That's really when you're most likely to get bubbles. And I don't have any of those in here. Everything is adhered really well. You want to make sure that there's no bubbles or anything like that. Nothing that moisture can get under. Oh, thank you, Felipa. Nothing that moisture can get under. You want to be really, really careful with that, because if you get moisture under the transfer over time, it's going to crack or peel. They don't do well with moisture. Another thing, this is Voodoo Gel Stain. It's a water-based stain. If I had stained this with like No Pain Gel Stain, which is oil-based, I would have needed to put a protective barrier in between my actual oil-based stain and the transfer. And the reason being is the transfers just don't do well with oil. It may look fine at first, but over time and months, then it could start to crack and peel. Same thing with protectants. Any of our clear coats are good to protect with, the Easy Peasy spray wax, even our Besting wax, because it's water-based. Any of those you can protect over this. But like, don't use gator hide over it. There's something in the raw materials in gator hide that the transfers don't like, even though it's water-based. But if you wanted to use gator hide though, which I do depending on what I'm doing, I will put a couple layers of clear coat and then put the gator hide over. You just have to have that barrier. So this is all I think I'm going to do right here. And actually, I think I want to put I think I have time to do this. If not, we'll just get the Voodoo Gel Stain, and the glazing of it is super easy, so I can just show you really quick and you'll have it. It's really just going to age it out a lot more. See the difference in these yellows and this yellow? I'm actually looking for, here we go. Here's some more yellows that are similar to this. I kind of want to run something over the back of the chair, kind of around. But I had originally wanted to do this on this side, but that would be too unbalanced. I'll figure that out later. Let's go ahead and use the Voodoo Glaze. I think you've pretty much got the idea of how to work with the transfer here. So we are going to do a little glaze to kind of, like I said, this contrast on camera looks a lot more than it does in person. But we're going to bring it together a little bit too by using a glaze. So chalk mineral paint, this was actually done, I didn't even tell you guys the colors. This was done with Colonel Mustard, Rebel Yellow for kind of some of the highlights, and then Pine Cone for the shading. And then I also used Coffee Bean, which I have in a FIFO bottle here, but it's a super dark brown. It does have gray undertones depending on what colors you use it with. But in this case, it stays that super dark brown. So what we're going to do is we're going to glaze it with some Voodoo Gel Stain. And I'm not going to pour a whole ton out just because we won't have time to do that much. So this is Tobacco Road. And by the way, the stain down here, before I distressed it, was a mix of Tobacco Road, Up in Smoke, and Black Magic. Right now, I am actually going to add a little Up in Smoke to this. And by the way, you guys, when you're using the Voodoo Gel Stain, it does separate out. It's not bad. You just need to shake it up really well, and it'll be ready to go. But my lids are all clogged, so that's why I'm opening them up to pour them out. I just want a tiny bit of the Up in Smoke. So I love the Voodoo Gel Stain. It comes in 7 colors, and I rarely ever use the color it comes in. I'm always mixing them up. Probably my favorites to use are the White Magic, Tobacco Road, Black Magic, and the Up in Smoke, which is gray. So black, white, gray, and brown. So I've got this little spongy here. I was looking for my spoons to kind of, well, so I also use texture on this piece. Like I said, you can go to my website. I did a live Friday. We painted and stained the chair. I also did a texture additive with sea spray. I forgot to even say that. So I'm just going to use the end of this spoon to kind of mix this up a bit. I could even water this down a little bit, but I don't think I'm going to do that just yet. I might if I don't like the way it's going on. But again, it's water-based. This paint is super porous. I could have used this stain directly on the paint, but I would have no working room. So I do have a coat of satin on this chair. Satin won't be my final sheen. I'll do it in flat. But I use satin because if I protect this in flat and do this, it's a little better than no protectant, but it still doesn't allow me to really work it like I want to. So if I use satin on here, satin creates a different type of sheen, so it'll make it a little more workable for me. And you know what? I do have my baby wipes just in case. So if I don't like something I do now, I can just take my baby wipes and wipe it off. So we are going to use our blue sponge. And all I'm going to do, this is the easiest glaze ever, you guys. All I'm going to do is run this all over the chair. By the way, I'm going to be doing this over the transfer as well, and I really should have put the transfer up here before I did this section, because I'm going to end up doing this again over the transfer. I want it to also look aged, but I'll put a coat of protectant in between because this is water-based. I don't want it to get anywhere, potentially inside my transfer, nothing. So all I'm doing is just taking this and scrubbing it in. This was an oak chair, so I've got a lot of wood grain, and I'll bring you guys in for a close-up. You'll be able to see a little bit better how this looks, because right now on camera, it looks a little bit different. So I'm just making sure I get in all the cracks and crevices. So right now, I like how this is going on. I'm happy with it. But if I didn't, I could come in while this is still wet and just wipe it back with the baby wipe, a wet shop towel, whatever you want to use, a wet t-shirt, whatever. Not to be confused with any contests. Oh, thank you, Dixie Belle. You guys, sorry if I'm missing any questions. I haven't seen any yet, but I'll go back after the live and answer any questions about this. But you can see how fast this whole chair is going to go with this glazing with the stain here and how it's going to bring it together. And you can see I'm really not using very much at all. I've got a few more minutes, so let's just keep going. Just want to make sure that I get into the sides here. You guys, this is just going to look like a really old, well-worn chair by the time it's done, and it's all going to come together. Let's get this side over here. I'm actually thinking, too, that on the seat, instead of going over it with this stain, I think what I actually may do on the seat, because I want it to look slightly different, is to actually use a wax. And I don't know if you guys have done this before, but you can bring your wood down to natural wood, and then you can wax your wood, and it'll give you a nice stain color. I do that a lot. Sometimes I even do it over the stain. I'm going to go with a little bit of stain on the chair, but keep away from just to shade it some, but keep away from my transfer as I do that. But that's it. That's just how you glaze it. I'm going to bring you in so you can really see the detail, because like I said, this chair has texture, and this is catching all that stain and everything like that in that texture and really bringing it together. So let me bring you in so you guys can really see. That's just a super grungy look. You can see a lot of the texture there. And, you know, it just looks odd on camera. It looks very, it's really pretty in real life. It flows together. But when I look at it on camera, it looks so different. That happens a lot. But that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. And like I said, if you did want to see this chair painted, and let me actually show you the difference. This is the back of the chair before we've got any of that voodoo glaze on it, so you can get a really close-up look of how that looks here. Just to see that texture. And this is before the stain. That stain just brings it together a little bit more. But thank you guys again. If you know anybody who could use this video, please share it. Again, this chair is going to be raffled off along with several other pieces that I'm donating. And so you can click the link in the description to like and follow me on Facebook if you want to find out how you can be entered to win. And again, thank you guys so much for hanging out tonight. Thank you, Dixie Belle, for everything. And if I miss any questions, I'll definitely go back and look at those. Thanks. Take care. Have a good night.